All right, let's talk about circles. So, a circle is the set of all points in a plane that are equidistant, or the same distance, from a point called the center. So, the equation of a circle is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. From that formula, we can see that the center is at h comma k, and our unit is the radius. Now notice it's r squared in our formula. Also notice that it's x minus h and y minus k. So when we do write it as our ordered pairs for our center, remember we have to flip the signs. All right. So number one there says write an equation for a circle with a center at -4, +2, and a radius of 8 units. Okay, well my center is at h and k, and my radius is r. Okay, let's fill that into our formula. X minus a -4 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals 8 squared. Alright, let's just clean that up a little bit. Minus and minus would be plus, so x plus 4 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals 64. So there's our equation of our circle. Alright, number 2 says write an equation for a circle if the endpoints of a diameter are at 2, 8, and 2, -2. Okay, so these guys are on the circle. 2, 8, and 2, -2 are on the circle. So I have to find the center. So I want the midpoint of those 2 points because that would be my center. Remember the midpoint. Think about it as the average. So I'm going to add up my x's, divide by 2. Add up my y's, divide by 2. 2 plus 2 is 4, divided by 2 is 2. 8 plus a -2 is 6, divided by 2 is 3. So there's my center. Now I need my radius. In order to find my radius, I'm going to use the distance formula. We could do the distance formula with these two guys, and then I would have to cut it in half because that would be the diameter. So if I use this guy and one of these two. So my radius is the square root, the difference in my y's, or sorry, my x's, plus the difference in my y's. 2 minus 2 is 0, squared is 0. 8 minus 3 is 5 squared. It's 25. Square root of 25 is 5. Alright, so here we go. There's my h and my k. There's my r. X minus 2 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 5 squared, or 25. All right, number 3 says, write an equation for a circle with a center at 3, 5, so there's my h and my k, that is tangent to the y-axis, meaning it just touches it at the y-axis at one point. Okay, well let's think about this. 3, 5. So there's my center. It touches the y-axis. Remember, tangent means it touches it at just that one point. So I have a circle that looks something like that. This right here is my radius. So if this is 3 over, my radius is 3. So x minus 3 squared plus y minus minus 5 squared is equal to 3 squared, or 9. Okay, so that's writing equations, giving the center and the radius or some sort of information so we can find the center and the radius. There in the middle it says the graph of x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared is the graph of x squared plus y squared equals r squared. It's just translated. Remember, the parent function is the one that's centered at the origin. So if the center is at 0, 0, we call that the parent function. So all this is saying is that my h value moves my graph to the right and to the left, and my k value moves my graph up and down. That's all that's saying. Okay. So look there at number 4. It says find the center and the radius of the circle with the equation x minus 4 squared plus y plus 1 squared equals 9. Then graph the circle. Okay. So let's figure out what h and k are. X minus h, so h is 4. K is negative 1. So my center is at 4, negative 1. My radius is the square root of 9, or 3. Alright, so we're going to start with our center. Graph your center. 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 1. Now, when we graph this guy, we're just going to go 3 in every direction. So I start at my center and I go 3 units up. 1, 2, 3. 3 to the left. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 down. 1, 2, 3. Now, it's a circle, so make it circular shape. Don't connect the dots and make it a diamond. I'm not going to grade you on your perfect circleness, but it should be at least round. Okay, well, number 4 was in our nice, pretty vertex form, or standard form, if you want to call it that way. So what happens if it's not? So number 5 there says find the center and the radius of the circle with the equation x squared plus y squared plus 6x minus 7 equals 0, and then graph the circle. Well, I can't look at that equation and just say, okay, my center is at such and such, and my radius is such and such. So if it's not in the form that we want it to be in, we're going to complete the square to get it into the form that we want it in. Okay, so here we go. When I complete the square, remember I'm going to group my x's together and group my y's together if I have anything going on. So here I go. X squared plus 6x. And then I'm going to say plus y squared equals, and I'm going to move the 7. Alright, now this guy has a linear term. The y's don't. So it looks like on this guy, I only have to complete the square with the x's. So here I go. X squared plus 6x plus a box plus, I'm going to go ahead and throw in a 0, equals 7 plus a box. Now, just like you've been completing the square since chapter 6, the box is the same thing. B, in this case, is 6, divided by 2, so 3, square it, is 9. Remember, we're forcing him to factor as the two same factors so we can write it as a perfect square. So x, keep the first sign, square root the box. 7 plus 9 is 16. Okay, now I can look at this guy and say, alright, my center is now at negative 3, 0. And my radius is the square root of 16, or 4. Alright, let's graph that. Negative 3, 0. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to go 4 in every direction. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Connect the dots in a circular motion. It's okay if it looks a little bit like a potato. Okay, so we had a plain old x term. We didn't have a plain old y, so we didn't have to complete the square with the y's. But if you turn the page, look at what happens. Number 6 says, find the center and the radius of the circle with the equation x squared plus y squared plus 2x plus 4y now equals 9. See how I have a plain old x term and a plain old y term? I am now going to need to complete the square with the x's and with the y's. Alright, so leave yourself some room. I'm going to group the x's together. X squared plus 2x plus a box. Plus y squared plus 4y plus, I'm going to do a different shape just so I can keep them separate. I like triangles. Do you have to use triangles? No. You could use circles. You could use squares. I mean diamonds. You can use hearts. I don't care. Now, I added a box to the left-hand side. I have to add a box to the right-hand side. I added a triangle to the left-hand side. I have to add a triangle to the right-hand side. Remember, you have to preserve that equality, just like you were doing since you started doing math in school a very long time ago. Okay, now we're going to complete the square. So I'm going to take my b, divide it by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Square it is 1. So in my boxes are a 1. Now I use two different shapes because sometimes these numbers are different. Sometimes they're the same. But this way I can make sure that I'm adding both things to both sides. Alright, now I'm going to do it with my y's. B is now 4. Divided by 2 is 2. Square 2 is 4. So I'm going to add a 1 to both sides. I'm also going to add a 4 to both sides. Again, I'm forcing this guy to factor with the exact two same factors. X, keep the first sign, square root the box. X plus 1. Y, keep the first sign, square root the box. Y plus 2 squared equals 14. Guess what? You just completed the square twice. And we got them into the form that we like, so we can just say, hey, the center, flip the sign, is at -1, -2. My radius, now when you list it, that's the square root of 14. That's the exact radius. That's what I want you to list, okay? So it says find the center and the radius. The radius is the square root of 14. Remember, 14 doesn't break down. When I graph it, though, I'm going to use a decimal approximation for 14. Okay, so -1, -2. And if you look at your calculator, grab your calculator. Only use the decimal approximation to graph it. 3.74. So I'm going to start at my center and not quite 4 in every direction. 1, 2, 3.74. 1, 2, 3.74. 1, 2, 3.74. 2, 3.74. Again, this is the exact one. So if I ask you to tell me what the radius is, it's the square root of 14. However, like I said, you can use the decimal approximation when you graph it. Okay, so let's look at your worksheet. Alright, so number 1 and number 2, you're going to identify the center and the radius, and then you're going to graph it. This one, the radius is not, you're going to say, you know, square root of 8 or 2 root 2. This one, the radius is 3. Okay, so those ones are in the nice pretty form. Number 3, 4, 5, and 6. It tells you the center And then it gives you a point on the circle. So you're going to have to do the distance formula to find the radius and then plug it into your equation. 7, 8, 9, and 10, you're going to have to complete the square. And on all of them, you have to complete the square twice, and then you can find the center and the radius. So complete the square to write the equation of the circle in standard form, identify the center and radius, then sketch the graph. Okay? You should be completing the square for both the x's and both of the y's. So, those 10 problems are your homework.